Welcome to episode 8 of Becoming the Man. I'm your host, Eric Finister. Thank you for joining in, listening, watching, liking, subscribing, commenting. Thank you for all that. Let's dive right on in. You guys know me. I don't like to waste any time. Let's dive in. Today's topic: what does it mean to be a man in 2026? What does it mean to be a man in 2026? Now, let's take it back. Let's take it way, way, way back. Back in the day, our grandfathers, our great great grandfathers, our great 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 grandfathers, they grew up in a time where they were the ones to go out and work while the wife stayed home, cooked, cleaned, took care of the kids. That's all they knew, right? And then as time progressed, something happened, something switched. Women, started to work, right? They started to have a voice, right? They started to challenge society. They started to push feminism. They wanted to do things that men could do. Now let's fast forward to 2026, right? And this has been, a gradual progression for women. Now, we'll say that this is no attack on women by no means at all. I was raised by a strong Black independent woman with no father figure in the house. And I watched her raise her own 5 kids, and then she took in an additional 5 kids, right? And I wouldn't be the man I am today if it was not for her. Okay, so this is not an attack on women at all. Okay, but being a man in 2026. We live in a time where now women are thriving, right? They are the breadwinners, right? Um, we see them in corporate America. We see them doing jobs that we wouldn't have necessarily seen them do back in the day. They are now firewomen, police women, right? Even athletes, all of that. That's just the times that we are in. But let me say this: women have pushed feminism so much that masculinity is now seen as being toxic, when that's definitely not the case. We live in a culture where now it's man versus women. Man versus women. Everything I see down my timeline, I'm on Instagram, I'm on Facebook. Man versus women, man versus women. Oh, I don't need a woman. I don't need a man. Quite frankly, men and women, we need each other. I honestly believe it's a spiritual thing because I believe that the enemy wants to push feminism so much so to where a woman says she doesn't need a man, and then kids be raised up without fathers. Fathers are missing out the home. Women become so independent that they don't know how to submit to the man. Ouch, that hurt, doesn't it? I know, but it's okay. We live in a society where if the man isn't making X amount of money, he isn't deemed as a man, right? If he's lacking in certain areas, he's not a real man. Let me kill that noise right now for all my men that are listening. If she makes more than you, that does not take away from you being a man. If she has college degrees behind her name and all you have is a high school diploma, that does not make you any less of a man. I want you to understand that. It's bigger than that. Then you may even pose the question, well, if I'm making more than my husband, or if my wife is making more than me, How am I the head of the household? It goes beyond money. When we look back in the book of Genesis, right? God put Adam in a deep sleep, took a rib, formed her to be his wife, Eve, to be Adam's helpmeet, right? To be his helpmate. We don't know what help men need, right? We all need different types of help. We all have different weaknesses. Let me share this. One of my struggles have always been finding a job. That's been my biggest struggle down through the years. And it's not that I don't want a job. It's not that I wasn't looking for a job. It's not any of that. I mean, I've applied to so many jobs in the past, so many entry level positions, and constantly getting the email. Oh no, we decided to go somewhere else. Sorry, but unfortunately, but continue to apply. No, a man sees that over and over and over, right? If a man gets rejected over and over and over, after a while, depression creeps in, right? This is things that men don't really talk about. Depression kicks in. Now it's like, why even bother? You know, it's always something. I send this application, but nothing. And what happens is that we begin to lose motivation, drive, will, and then that pushes us into trying to figure out things our own. Well, you know what? I can't get a job. I'm gonna start selling drugs. I'm gonna steal. I'm gonna rob a bank. You know, uh, and then living in today's society, you know, everything on social media will make you want to take your life because of what's being shown. Because if you're not making X amount of money, you're not a real man. We live in 2026. Gas prices at almost 8, 9, $10 a gallon. So, I mean, I need you to help it make sense because we live in a time where unless a man is making 6, 7, 8 figures, you're going to have to go 50-50. That's just what it is. And that's something that's really, really frowned upon. And I don't understand why. Me personally, I was just telling my wife this, my goal is obviously to put her in a place where she does not have to work at all. That's my goal. That's my dream. That's my prayer. That she only will have to work if she wants to, if she's bored. But I'm not making 6 figures, 7, 8 figures yet. I'm not there. So guess what? We have to go 50-50. And going 50-50 does not make me any less than a man. It does not make me not be the head of the household, despite what culture said, despite what's shown on social media, despite any of that. But a lot of times, like I said, men, we get judged for what we don't have, for what we're lacking. Social media is quick to pin man versus women. But from the creation of time, it was in God's plan for man and women to be together. So much so that God came out of retirement to create women just for man. God was done. After the 7 days, he rested. That was it, right? That was it. But then he looked and saw that it was not good for man to be alone. So what does he do? He creates a helpmate for Adam. And then down through the years, through generations and times and eras, from women really not having a voice to now they have a voice everywhere. Somewhere along the line, something got misconstrued to where now this whole independent feminism era, right? Where I don't need a man. Um, if he's not making 6 figures, I don't want to talk to him. That's the time we're living in. And with that being constantly presented over and over and over, it makes it hard for a man to realize that he's still a man despite what's being shown, right? Despite what's being presented on social media and the movies and the music, the influencers, the content creators, all that. Man, I need you to understand, I need you to realize, I need you to grab this. Despite your education, despite the money in your bank account, despite where you are right now in this present moment, none of that dictates or makes you any less than a man. In Genesis, when God created Adam, he said, "Let us make man in our image." Right off the bat, we are made in God's image, right? We are a reflection of him. We are God's image bearers, right? That alone should be enough. But of course, like I said, down through the years, things that got misconstrued and the feminism era has been pushed so much so that it makes men feel like they're not even needed. They're not even wanted. And like I said, we don't know in what area that man need help in. That man need help in. I'll give you an example. I'm married. Me and my wife, we've been married going on 2 years now. When we got married, she was the breadwinner. Point blank, period. She was making more money than I was. Did that make me any less of a man? By no means. By no means. Does that mean I'm not the head of the household? Not at all. I'm still a man. I'm still the head of the household. Then you may be asking, well, Eric, how so? I mean, how can you dictate or how can you say you're the man when you're not making more money than your wife? How can she submit to you if you're not making more than her? Submission is more than the bank account, right? It's more than that. It's a respect. It's principle. It's, for lack of a better word, knowing your place. Me knowing my place, my wife knowing her place. Us having a mutual understanding that I am the head of the household. I am the man of the house. I am the priest of our home. Right. So even if she's making six, seven, eight, nine, 10 figures, and I'm just making $60,000 a year, that does not make me any less than a man. But I will say this: it makes it hard, because men, we have pride, right? We have our ego, and then the outside influences will really make us feel less than, make us feel like because I don't make this amount of money, I'm not the man. I've had women like stop talking to me flat out completely because of things that I lacked. They met me at I met different women at different places in my life and some things I just didn't have. And being judged right off the bat because of what I'm lacking, that does not take away from me being a man. I heard a comedian once say, only women, children, and dogs are loved unconditionally. Women, children, and dogs. Men, we're only loved under the condition that we can provide. And in a lot of ways, I agree with that because we see it. We see it everywhere. At the same time, I disagree with it because not all women are the same. Not all women are like that, you know. But when a man constantly sees on social media, constantly seeing in the movies and everywhere, that if I don't have this or that or this or that, then I'm not a man. And that's not the case. And what happens, depression, right? Not knowing your worth, feeling less than, all because of what society deems as what a man is. We have the Instagram models, the influencers. I see a lot of stuff, just man versus women, man versus women, man versus women. I honestly believe it's a spiritual thing. I believe it's a spiritual attack to divide the family, to divide men and women. That's what I honestly believe, because when the man is missing out the house, you know, there are greater chances that the children will go on to do bad things, crime, be in jail, early death, you know, not making the good decisions, you know, having the male influence, the father influence is big. And when it's missing, when it's lacking, kids grow up astray. We have to realize, man, that despite what's shown on social media, music, movies, we are still men, no matter what. We are still men. And if you come across a woman that is putting you down because of your lack, then you don't need to be with her anyway. And there's nothing wrong with a woman pushing her man, motivating her man. There's nothing wrong with that. We should push each other. We should motivate each other. We should strive for each other to be better versions of ourselves. But when you meet someone, oh no, you don't make enough for me. So I no, we can just end it here. That's not who you want to be with, no way. You want to be with someone who can see the value inside of you despite your bank account, despite the car you drive. This world is so materialistic. It's insane. I remember years ago I was we weren't dating, but in the talking stage, right? And I had a place to stay. I had a job. I didn't have a car. And because I had a car, she has so much to say. Oh, I'm not about to be picking you up uh and taking you to work and all these different things. I'm like, lady, I don't need you to pick me up and take me anywhere. All right. I'm okay with paying for Uber. I don't need that. I've had another woman, because I did another same thing because I didn't have a car, or because she didn't agree with where I was living at the time. Um, it's like she was we were together and then we were broken up. We were together, we were broken up together, broken up all in 2 months time. Right. This woman, uh, when she met my family, she told my mom, "Yeah, I'm just waiting for Eric to make me his girlfriend." I'm like, "Oh, say less." Next day, uh, park picnic. I like to do the romance thing, with I don't drink, so the apple cider, the charcuterie, and all those type of things, the grapes, and the handwritten letter, asking to be my girlfriend. All right. 3 days later, she breaks up with me because of the things I lacked, which she already knew. Having to deal with things like that as a man can be tough, because then we battle with, okay, am I even worthy enough? Do I even deserve love, marriage, a woman relationship? This is why I truly, honestly believe it's a spiritual attack on families to divide men and women, to where in a single household, and then children grow up the same way. That's what I honestly believe. But men, it's okay. I come to encourage you to tell you it is okay if you are where you are. And here's the thing. I'm gonna even say this. If you never make more than your wife, if I never make more than my wife financially, that does not mean that I'm not a man, that I'm not the head of the household. If I never reach six figures, I'm still a man. I was still made in God's image. He still has given me dominion and authority. You're still my helpmate. Right? There's still a level of respect and trust and honesty and loyalty. Once I learned this from my brother. It's back a couple of years ago. I was dating somebody. He's like, Eric, once you realize all that you offer and all that you bring to the table, you won't settle for anything less than what you deserve. And that moment has stuck with me, you know, up to this point. You know, I won't settle for anything less than I deserve. And then I know some of you might be listening. Well, some men are out there that just want to mooch off the women, want a sugar mama, want a cougar. Unfortunately, hey, that's the times that we live in. And I will hope women that are listening or watching, if you do come across a man that's like that, that you have discernment, you have sense enough to not be with that type of man. Um, and likewise for men, same way. You don't want a gold digger, right? You want someone of substance, someone that's bringing something to the table more than sex. A lot of times we'll stay with a person just because the sex is mind blowing. Sex gets old. After your 30, 45 minutes, pleasure time, then what? The book of Proverbs tells us a lot about staying away from certain type of women. Man, you don't need the Instagram model. She's only doing it for the likes and the comments. You want who and what God has for you, what has been designed for you since the beginning of time. It's okay, man. It's okay if you don't have the nicest car, the nicest clothes, the big bank account, the job. It's okay because none of that makes you a man anyway. It's what's in here, what God has placed on the inside of you. Know your worth. Know what you bring to the table. Now, I will say this, man. Well, before I say that, wherever you are, you can get up and try again. You can dust yourself off and try again. You know, keep applying for the job. Keep that will, that drive, that determination, that motivation. Keep it. Like I said, I went years with applying for jobs, not getting them, applying to jobs, not getting them. I can count, I believe, on one hand on how many jobs I've actually had. Let me see. In home service. That's one. Security. Two. I've done security twice. So three jobs. Uh, delivering for Amazon. That's four. My current job. Five. Oh, then what? No warehouse. Six. So I can count. Also, I am 34. I've had less than 10 jobs. And it wasn't that I wasn't applying. It wasn't that I wasn't going out. See, I grew up in a time, I sound old, but I went to stores to get the application, to fill out applications and submit it. Now everything is done online. That makes me sound so old. Oh my goodness. But that's just the time and era I grew up in. So it's not that I wasn't applying for jobs and looking for opportunities. Just constantly the door was being shut in my face, shut in my face, shut in my face. And for a moment, yes, I felt like, why even bother? Why would I even bother applying when they're just going to tell me no? That did creep in for a while. I was like, why? Why even bother? But then, I can't, I don't know at what point it clicked, but, continue to apply. And eventually I got a job here, got a job there. Right, the job that I work now has been the longest job I've ever held. Um, which just goes to show you just how much I've struggled with getting jobs and keeping jobs. And it's not that I'm a bad employee or, I rise up against management or bad work ethic or anything like that. It's just that's just the struggle that I've had, go to these temp agencies, get a job and then, working the jobs, think you're doing good, and then we don't need you anymore. So I've been through it all, I've gone through that. And even in all of that doesn't make me any less of a man. If anything, to have gone through those struggles, I would like to believe it made me an even better man. This is why this podcast is called Becoming the Man. When I turned 30, um, for whatever reason, that was like the thing I was doing. Hashtag becoming the man. Hashtag becoming the man. This is 30. My 20s, I did a lot. Played around, slept around. I did all that. In my 30s, like something just changed. Something just shifted. Um, so that's where I got becoming the man from because after I turned 30, I was like, this is becoming the man. And then after that, my pastor, she wanted me to start a men's ministry at the church. Okay, perfect name, Becoming the Man. Um, and then years later, Becoming the Man Project podcast is what I'm doing today. And this is just to encourage, to uplift, to motivate the men out there, that have been judged for their lack, that don't feel like they're worthy, that feels useless, that feel like they have no purpose. You have purpose. You matter. You are important. Despite what culture says, despite what family and friends and society says, you matter. You are important. And don't let the no's weigh you down. I know it hurts. I know it's uncomfortable. I know it don't seem fair, but don't give up. Keep fighting. Keep going. Keep trying. And I know it's hard. I've been there, but keep going. And I want to say my relationship with God is what really helped me in those difficult times. Going to God. I remember times, crying in the shower, talking to God about things I was dealing with. And I would see Him just fix things for me, turn things around for me. Um, so, like in the previous audio, in the previous clip episode, I said it all starts with having a relationship with God. Then you might even say, well, why have a relationship with God if I'm gonna have to go through that stuff? I would rather go through with God than have to go through without Him. Because it's so much better having Him on your side than to not have Him. That's just what it is. So, what does it mean to be a man in 2026? For one, man, we were created in God's image, right? We are the image bearers of God. We are a reflection of Him. He blew the breath of life into us, gave us authority, dominion, right, over the earth, over the land. Not only that, He provided a helpmate for us to help us. And this is not to rule over with the iron fist. I'm not saying that at all, by no means necessary. but they're to help you, to motivate you, to encourage you, to push you, to uplift you, to pray for you, right? To help you in your areas of weakness, whatever that weakness is. Don't let what society say keep you down. You are a man of God. You are a man of purpose. You are important. And I think I'm gonna leave it right here. I will conclude. This is going to conclude this episode of Becoming the Man. What does it mean to be a man in 2026? Thank you to all my listeners, my viewers, and my audience. Thank you for the likes, the comments, the shares, the subscribers. The numbers are slowly but surely growing. Thank you for rocking with me. And I want to say this, it's not about the views. What I like the views, of course. What I like the likes and the comments and the viral moments, sure. Who wouldn't? But it's more important that it's more so about reaching men who feel like they're worthless, that feel like they have no purpose. That's just going through life aimlessly. To let them know that there's hope. To know that there's someone praying for them. You can, like I said, and you can reach out to me. I'm a pastor. I'm more than happy to pray, counsel, offer advice, whatever. You're more than welcome to attend my church. You can you can visit, you can email me at becomingthemanproject@gmail.com for any questions, comments, statements, prayer requests, whatever. Whatever it is, I'm here for you and for the men that's out there. But this is going to conclude today's episode. I love you all. Until next time.